Okay, so I'm gonna keep running with this, and I want to say with this video, I'm getting along to proposing some. So I'm presenting as pet theories, which are just like musings and ideas and thoughts and conjectures that occur to me that would seem sensible to me, but I'm not claiming to substantiate these with research other than just a little bit of lived experience, and past, and not, I'm not trying to pass it off as authoritative, just as inspirational. Just however cool it sounds, or inspirational would just be the only authority. So you wonder, like, I remember when I was a young person, I was interested in I was a lot, according to Osho, we're actually given our personality. So a lot of like what makes you your personality, it's actually somewhat given to you by the society and the family and the community that you grew up with. These people give you certain experiences that give you a lot of people have a hand in rendering experiences to you that would give you a perception of being you, and that the interplay of between your true instincts and your different experiences and efforts and maybe lessons and suffering and joys, it amounts to how you react to these different people that you come across and come through in life. But they actually do have a hand in fashioning who you are. A lot of who you, according to a book I have, the owner's manual to the brain, the human brain. I'm going to put that on here. That book starts off with a disclaimer that a person can get injured reading it, and I want to put that disclaimer with it, is that sometimes when you read these different books about, like, especially Western medicine, or science, for lack of a better word, as it applies to, the word science might actually be an oxymoron in itself, because just like the word perfect, I think the word science might be an oxymoron because it presents itself as a settled and decided for and certain, when in the true essence it's supposed to be anything but that. So science arrives at different insights and perceptions as a method and mode and function of doubt, that is skepticism, that is the scientific method. Yet when it comes around to perceiving different things, it yet presents that and it codifies it into maybe a legal and medical doctrine, so forth, that it may serve different purposes. I think that it does as much damage as it serves any purpose. But yet these purposes that it can, these fancy things that can be achieved by these perceptions, amount to like a chauvinism and a totalitarian, uh, um, fascism, medical fascism, scientific fascism, where it's presented as though it's certain, and that's the gospel at that point, where it's supposed to be skeptical. And I think that life existence is ours to exist as, and to experience what it is to exist while existing. And so I think that I'll go so far as to say the gospel might be an oxymoron. The word gospel might be an oxymoron, because as we are existing and free to exist, and it is our prerogative to exist and choice to exist, because it is a choice, it is ours to experience and conceive for ourselves what it is to conceive to exist. So because a person read it, or because this one is that just that had this to say about that, it doesn't mean that your experience is discounted or is less valued than anyone or anything else, however grand, however spiritual, however sublime, however potent. You are still valuable as a point, as an agent, and as a locus of perception and experience that's part of yet a greater aggregate, but no less significant or dispensable than something outstanding. Because as humble as humble and simple as this existence would have you think that you are, this existence is not viable without you. Whoever's listening to this, whoever's laying eyes on this, whoever's in earshot of this existence, this thing that's talking to you on a camera, this head talking, whatever would make this head viable to talk to you, is not viable without your contribution, your interest, your passion, your love, your pain, all the things that are you. None of this is viable without you. So none of this can tell you what you are experiencing. Nothing can tell you that. Nothing. Any name cannot tell you that, unless that's your name. Um, but but science is like that, where they present it in a very chauvinistic, totalitarian, fascist way, as though this is what this is what has been discovered and is therefore the gospel that is real. So I think that gospel and science is as redundant as the other, and as problematic as the other, and as limiting and defeating and trifling and treacherous and daunting and costly to human beings to the present day. But it should both. So, if it had been science, then it should still be comprised of doubt, and it shouldn't push itself off as being certain. And also, people should not be given limitations and kind of self-defeating identities that are identities of condemnation by people who are not in any position or any background to offer condemnation other than their entitlement. What are professionals? Professionals are a bunch of privileged, entitled idiots that have come across some books with some books that are written by other privileged, entitled idiots that came around and fathomed some big sounding words in order to level that on other humble people, probably more talented and more hard and working and industrious than them privileged selves, and derive further privilege and entitlement from that. That's what these different professionals are in my taste. And they're but so at that, when I was younger like that, but part of my experience of personality was with some very trifling, treacherous people that I experienced in life, dishonest culture, society that I was reared in. And so I would say I was struggling with some of my experiences because I didn't have a reference and perspective to understand how trifling and treacherous of an environment I had been reared in. That's what the problem had been. It had not been an identity problem, because there's nothing wrong with anyone's identity, because whatever it is to exist is what you are. And what can be more beautiful and more yet more changing and dynamic than what it is to exist. But our experiences can be difficult to calibrate and to put into reference. And I think that it wasn't actually possible, because when I was growing up, like the type of things that I was experiencing growing up, I was, even though I had grown up like in what would be called, I had been introduced into and somewhat initiated into what could be called the Black church while still a child. I was in latter adolescence, teenage years, but I was still a child in that setting, and some of the beauties of that setting, the strength of that setting, the lessons and the insight, but also the challenges and the shortcomings, even in the church, that's there too. But even as outstanding people that I met there, who are a sample from the Midwest in the United States and also other countries, I didn't have actually the references and the insights that I would have had to need to experience to calibrate and come to appreciate what I had already experienced, even at that young of an age, is like later teenage years. Some of that's more available now, like online, and I've cited a lot of those sources. Some of my biggest ones in appreciating my reality would be Grand Sheik Tashreeq Bey, a YouTuber named King Noble, and a YouTuber named and Dr. Umar Johnson. To be frank, I just appreciate that Dr. Umar Johnson said that these labels that are applied to black males, even young black men, because I had been a black man when I came across some of the beasts and the machinery of these diagnoses and these limiting social terms that get applied. The social machine, the social beast of medicine, for lack of a better word. By the time I came into the teeth of that, I was not too long later, a while later, but not too long, Dr. Umar Johnson said that, frankly, man, this is some bullshit that they're pushing off on black males in order to miseducate, misdiagnose, exterminate. There was one more in there. There was four that he said, and that's all that's about. And I see that these are professional opinions by people that are less than what that word professional refers to, I think. And that helped me, but that reference wouldn't have been available before YouTube in the past. So it was my plight in my it was to me to experience this hellfire society growing up. But I'll keep going with this.